Coming up today on Issues in Education, teaching the future doctors of Florida using a unique regional campus approach. We'll look at how this impacts healthcare across the state even before a student graduates. Welcome to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith alongside my co-host, the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron. Today our topic is the FSU College of Medicine. For the last 10 years, it has been teaching future doctors using local and regional campuses that strongly emphasize hands-on experience. It's a unique approach, but just like other medical schools in the country, the fourth-year students still have to deal with match day, the very important day they find out where they will go after graduation. FSU's Dennis Schnitker gives us an inside look at what happens on that day.
The doctors are looking a little green this year.
Happy St. Patrick's Day!
Match Day 2011 coincides with St. Patrick's Day. But if anyone was feeling anxious, who could blame them? In the world of medical education, Match Day is a big deal.
I think a lot of medical students look forward to this day more than graduation.
The residency programs decide who they want, the medical students decide where they go, the great computer in the sky puts it all together, all at once at the same time throughout the country. They all open up their envelopes and find out where they're going.
With sealed envelope in hand, Florida State fourth-year medical student Marlisha Jackson hopes to conduct a family practice residency here in Florida. But space is limited.
I am going into the field of family medicine, and I have ranked a few programs that are excellent. I'm happy at any program that I go to, but I will tell you that I did rank Tallahassee Memorial Hospital #1, and hopefully I'll be there.
Ashley Lucke.
And what's St. Patrick's Day without a little luck? Florida State class president Ashley Lucke is planning for a career in pediatrics.
I'm hoping to open that envelope and it say UT Southwestern in Dallas, Texas. And I'm going to become a Texan for a short period, and hopefully everything's better in Texas like everyone says, so we'll see.
I know all of you are sitting there with an envelope in your hands.
Now, the moment of truth. With his Irish eyes a-smilin', Florida State University College of Medicine Dean John Patrick Fogarty starts the party.
So what do you say? We open the envelopes!
Surrounded by friends and family, a hall full of fourth-year medical students tear into envelopes to learn their fates. Others prefer to wait and open their envelopes on stage, then announce to the world the next stop in their medical education.
Wake Forest!
First up, Ashley Lucke.
We're going to University of Texas Southwestern Medical School, Dallas.
I went up to the stage, my husband opened it, it said UT Southwestern, and everything else is kind of a blur. I know I screamed. Somehow I ended up back in my seat. I don't really remember any of it.
Marlisha Jackson.
Next, it's Marlisha Jackson's turn. Will she stay in Florida?
Hey, family medicine, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. I'm so excited. I got Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. Woohoo! That was my #1 pick, and I'm super excited. My fiance is here, and my parents just walked up, and I thought they were going to be watching online, but they drove here, and yes, I'm very excited.
One by one, all 114 members of the Florida State University College of Medicine's class of 2011 crossed the stage to share their news. But not all wishes are granted.
The one downside of our match this year is, again, 68% of our students are actually leaving the state to go do their residency programs. As the state has done a great job of expanding the number of medical school seats and the number of medical schools, we're now running into a problem is that there's not enough seats in residency programs for all the graduates we have coming out of the programs. So one of the things that we're doing in Florida State and many of the new medical schools is we're working with our hospital partners to try to develop more residency programs.
Still, it's a day for celebration and joy. While graduation remains weeks away for the class of 2011, for many, a great burden was lifted on St. Patrick's Day, and the state's newest medical doctors are now matched with the next stage of their medical training. At Florida State University, I'm Dennis Schnitker reporting.
We're going to talk more about Match Day in just a minute, the residency opportunities in Florida, and how the regional campus approach works for FSU medical students and the state. Joining us today is Dean of the Medical School, Dr. John Fogarty, Dr. Alma Littles, who is Senior Associate Dean for Medical Education and Academic Affairs, and fourth-year medical student Ashley Lucke, who we just saw in that video. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to be here.
So, Jay, our mission is rather unique. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to boil down our mission is to basically say that we're trying to produce the kind of physicians that Florida needs the most. And what we need the most more than anything else is physicians in primary care, and physicians that are actually going to go out into the rural, underserved, and underrepresented areas to provide the kind of medical care that we need for the future.
The College of Medicine has grown by leaps and bounds since it was first enacted by the legislature in 2000. The first students came in 2001. How many students have graduated in FSU's medical school since then?
We've had 336 graduates. Our first few classes were relatively small, 27, 36, and 48. We'll now be graduating our first class of 114 this May.
That's amazing. How many are practicing in the state?
Well, you have to remember when you graduate from medical school, you're really only graduating to go to a residency program. So our students go out and they'll do residency programs that may be from anywhere from 3 to 7 years in duration. Of those students in our first 3 classes that have actually completed their residencies, the 3-year programs, 52 of them are now out in practice, and about 2/3 of them are actually still in Florida.
That's great.
You know, every time I think about a medical school at a different university, I think of them being in the place that the university sits. And so the assumption is you must be in Tallahassee, but that's not the case.
No, it's not the case at all. This is not a traditional medical school that has a side-by-side academic teaching hospital right next door. We actually are what we call a community-based medical school with a distributed campus model. We have campuses throughout the state, so we do have a regional campus here in Tallahassee, but we also have them in Pensacola, Daytona Beach, Orlando, Fort Pierce, and Sarasota. And so we actually send our 3rd and 4th year students out once they finish their first 2 years here to one of those 6 regional campuses, and that's where they receive their clinical training.
So what are the advantages of a model like that?
Well, first of all, if we're really trying to produce the kind of doctors that Florida needs, we think the best way for us to do that is for them to grow roots in their communities. So we send them out to the various campuses. They work one-on-one with physicians in those communities, with the surgeons, with the pediatricians, with the obstetricians in those communities, and they have an incredible experience in those community settings working with those doctors, and we really think that that's most likely to encourage them and, you know, seduce them into doing the type of things we want them to do.
Just out of curiosity, are they competitive with one another?
Not as much as you might think. I think there's certainly a number of different matches and scrambles. We just saw the match for residency training programs. This is what students have chosen to do with their lives after they finish medical school, and that's an exciting time. They also have a mini match when it comes to identifying where they're going to go for their regional campuses. The traditional medical school typically has 3 or 4 or 5 students on a team going around to the various hospital rounds and things. We typically have one-on-one with attending physicians, and we bring the students back to the regional campuses every Wednesday afternoon for a program we call doctoring. And so they get to interact with each other, they get to work with their campus dean, they get to work with their campus faculty on common problems, common issues. We think it works very well.
How many students can each one of the regional campuses handle?
We have 6 regional campuses, and it divides nicely into our total enrollment of 120 students, so 20 3rd year, 20 4th year. We also have a couple of unusual places we send students. We have 3 to 4 students go to Mariana for a full-time experience as a 3rd year. We also send students to Immokalee, to the Collier Health System clinic that we have in Immokalee, where we'll have anywhere from 25 to 30 students a year elect to do their pediatric or their family medicine core clerkship down there. It really gives them an exposure to an incredible underserved community, mostly migrant farm workers and their families.
And so you have physicians associated with each campus and faculty. What kind of numbers are we talking about there?
We have over 1,700 community physicians in the various specialties. We have all the core clerkships in the 3rd year and a couple in the 4th year that we need physicians in the community to do that. We have a campus dean at each one of those places, and we have a clerkship director for each of our core clerkships that actually identifies the physicians in the area that are most qualified to teach. And then we go through a fairly rigorous faculty development program with them to bring them up to speed, to teach them how to teach in the office setting, to help students, to evaluate them, and to bring them forward.
You know, I heard one thing from your students. I visited a couple of your campuses now. I've heard that unlike a big classroom setting, you can only make a mistake once when you're sitting there one-on-one with these physicians, and that the key to this strategy is not just hands-on, it's that you can't hide. You have to know what you're doing because you're going to be asked this question. And if you were asked it once before, you better not answer wrong the second time. Is that true?
When you're on a team of 4 or 5 students on a ward rotation, you can hide.
You cannot hide.
You can hide.
Oh, you can?
Because you hope your classmates will know the answer and you don't have to.
Right.
When you're one-on-one with an attending, you know, they ask you a question, they're only asking you, they're not asking anyone else. Yeah. But I think that the kind of questions they ask and the kind of experience that we have are that much better. In the typical medical center environment, as a student on a ward rotation, you're caring probably for 1 or 2 patients at a time. When you're working with a doctor in the office setting, you're actually seeing their patients. And you might be seeing 6 to 8 patients in the morning, 6 to 8 patients in the afternoon. That's why I think our model is working so well, because students tend to learn what they see. And they go home and read about what they've seen that day. And if you're only caring for 1 or 2 patients during the week, as opposed to 40 or 50 or 60, I think you're learning that much more.
Ashley, you have been in this setting. Is this the reason you chose FSU for your medical school, or what were you looking for?
Yes, I mean, there's multiple reasons why Florida State is a great program. I think that students who are applying might not even realize how much different the setup is for the 3rd and 4th year. They're looking for a strong program that's most likely in Florida, close to family, but FSU really has this great opportunity for 3rd and 4th year students. I think that the types of procedures, the experiences I've had with patients, the one-on-one interaction. I mean, like Dr. Fogarty said, these are their patients. So the doctors are definitely having a close eye on you in the way that you're treating their patients. So there's a higher standard that we're held to, and I think it really has led to a better education and creating better preparation for residency.
Now, Dr. Littles, is it challenging to handle all the different students in all the different places when they're not here locally?
It's a bit of a challenge, but we have a great structure set up to accommodate and deal with that challenge. As Dean Fogarty already said, we have a campus dean at each of the regional campus sites. The campus dean actually has a support staff of 6 to 7 full-time staff members to assist with the students at the regional campus level. And we've got our clerkship directors for each of the required rotations that our students participate in the 3rd and 4th year. So with that structure allows us the opportunity to have a closer contact with students at the level of the regional campuses, and then the campus deans, clerkship directors have connections back to the main, to the central campus here with the administrative units here at the campus, and that makes it a lot easier to deal with that challenge.
You know, one of the things I'm struck by is that we're doing exactly what the legislature asked of us, to create a program that served the greatest need in Florida. Have you had, in addition to being able to stand up and be proud about the fact, there are not very many times where the legislature says we want, and we turn around and deliver exactly what it is that they want, but have you also thought about the economic, socioeconomic impact of what the college has been doing?
I have. I've been here going on 3 years now, and as I've made my rotations around the various campuses and I've seen the kind of wonderful things happening at these campuses, I said, we have to study this. We have to look at what's going on. Many medical schools today talk about the economic impact they have on their community, particularly around the research dollars and things. I really feel like that we were making not only an economic difference in our communities, but also a social difference in our communities. One of my regional deans described it very well. He said before the regional campus was there, they had a nice little medical community. And now that we're here, they really see themselves as educators. They talk to each other more, they talk about medical students, they talk about medical problems. All the pediatricians in town now know each other. All the family physicians in town now know each other, so it's working very well. We take these very bright, smart students and we put them in the offices, and they have PDAs and laptops, and they have access to the latest medical information. And all these attendings go, wow, what are you doing? You know, can I do that? And so one of the biggest things that's been important for our faculty out there is access to our online medical library. And we also, our students last year in their 3rd year of medical school saw 135,000 patient visits. You know, so what impact are we having on all those patients in Florida. And so I got MGT to do a study, and it was fun to bring them back because they actually did the study in 1999 that made the case for this medical school. And we've got a very nice study that's been published now that really demonstrates that we're having a huge social impact and a huge economic impact on the state. And it's very gratifying to see that, and they interviewed faculty, they interviewed community leaders, they interviewed hospital CEOs, and you know, the thing that's most gratifying is that so many of the faculty wished they had this kind of medical school when they went to medical school. And all of them would recommend this medical school to their sons and daughters and their community members, and that's very, very exciting.
That's great.
We just watched the video about match day. Dr. Littles, tell us how the process of finding a residency position begins in the fall. I'm assuming it starts in the fall?
Pretty much in the fall of the senior year, our fourth-year medical students will actually submit applications to various programs within the discipline where they want to specialize. And so they have access to resources from residency programs across the country. And they submit an application. Those residency programs, it's an electronic application. Those residency programs access that application, and then they invite students, and this is from medical schools across the country. Those residency programs will invite students for interviews. So our students will go on anywhere from, 5 to 15 or so on average interviews at residency programs as a part of that process. Then what happens is there's a cutoff for those interviews in mid-January, and then the programs will submit a rank list, again electronically. Our students also submit a rank list. Students are ranking programs in order of the programs they would like to pursue their residency training, and those residency programs are submitting a rank list in order of the students that they would like to have in their residency programs. Again, it's a computerized electronic process. So then at the time of match day, that computerized program makes the match for students across the country into residency programs across the country that ultimately results in what you just saw earlier in terms of match
Ashley,
day.
you were on the opposite end of this. So what were you looking for? What kind of list did you have? Where did you go interview?
I was not exactly sure where I wanted to live, so I did more interviews than the average. I did 17 interviews, which is a lot for pediatrics.
That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot of traveling.
Did you go by phone, or you did them all?
Physically,
you physically
you go
went
there.
to all those places?
Yes, you have to go, and you have to be there at least 2 days because they usually have a function the night before to socialize with the residents. And I dragged my husband to almost all of them. So I was looking for a program that was a freestanding children's hospital. I'm doing pediatrics. So I knew I wanted to be in a building where everything from the welcome mat to the nurses to the equipment to the radiology room was all geared towards children. That was important to me. I definitely wanted to be at a program that had a good, strong reputation for putting out some really competent physicians. And it had to be in a place that I wanted to live. And so warmer climates prevailed ultimately with my rank list, and I ended up putting together that list, and it took me about a month and a half to finally get all of those programs in the order that I wanted, but it happened and it worked out for the best. So
Now you're going to Texas.
Going to Texas.
Do you think when you're done with your residency you're going to come back?
I think so. My entire family, as well as my husband's, are all in Texas, or I'm sorry, in Florida in Brevard County. So I feel like there's a lot of reasons to come back, and also Florida is the third most in need in terms of uninsured people in the country, and so that's something that is very prominent in pediatrics, and I think that there's a need for not only general pediatricians but specialists in the state of Florida. So I'd love to come back to Florida and start a freestanding children's hospital one day. We'll see what happens.
Dr. Fogarty, you talked about the in the video about that there not being enough residency programs here in Florida for students who want to stay here throughout their whole time. What's being done to bring more of them into the state?
Yeah, this is an issue that we're really now facing as we're increasing the class size, increasing the number of medical students that are graduating from medical schools in Florida. That problem is only going to get worse as we increase, as the newer medical schools begin to graduate students in the next few years. We're now at that point on the curve where there's more medical students graduating from medical schools in the state of Florida than we have residency slots for. So a number of schools are working very hard to increase that. We recently joined a sponsorship with Tallahassee Memorial here in town. to develop an internal medicine residency program that'll be alongside the family practice program that's been there for 30 years. We're working on a number of different places around the state to work with hospitals and partner with them to develop new residencies.
Thank you again for joining us. We've been talking with Dean Fogarty, Dr. Littles, and Ashley Lucke about the FSU College of Medicine. When we come back, Dr. Barron and I will talk one-on-one about more issues in education. Welcome back to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, talking with Dr. Eric Barron, the president of the Florida State University. Dr. Barron, we've been talking about the FSU College of Medicine. You've been all over the state since you became president, visiting different groups. What are you hearing from them about what they think about FSU's College of Medicine?
Well, I hear really good things, but the best part is that when I go to an event where we have one of our medical campuses, and I talk about it, the alumni invariably tell me that their doctor has an FSU student with them and how good it makes them feel. Even to the point where I've had people brag about a procedure that they had to have and that it was the FSU student that did it and what a spectacular job they did. So I hear nothing but great things. And the same thing is true from the physicians. They love having that connection.
What do you want to happen next for FSU's College of Medicine?
Okay, well, you know, it's on pretty firm footing at this point. We've got to make sure their budget stays robust, and because we really are providing a service to the state. I think we're also going to get to the point where we make more connections between our faculty and services in the community, where we can assist and provide more opportunities for students and faculty.
Speaking of the legislature and budgets, last month FSU launched the website Advocate for Florida State. Explain what that is and what you're hoping from it.
Okay, well basically last year we had a circumstance in the legislature. It was about a flagship university bill, and I said we need to inform our alumni so they can talk to our legislators. And I was told, well, this will be a difficult thing to do. We can send out an email blast. It won't get to everyone. And so I said, okay, if that's what we're capable of, let's do it. And then lo and behold, I would get all these people writing back saying, who should I write to? Who is the person in my district? And I would had to respond, I don't know the answer to that question because I can't see where you live based on your email. So Advocate for Florida State not only informs people about the issues and puts it out there, but it can immediately connect our alumni to the addresses and telephone numbers that they need. So it allows them to be much more effective in talking about FSU.
And they can go to advocateforfloridastate.fsu.edu.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're basically 1 month into the legislative session right
Yeah.
now. How's it shaping up for universities and for FSU?
Okay, well it's fairly tough, I have to say. If you look at individual pieces, it doesn't seem like it's too bad. When you start to sum up everything, you discover there are different bills in different areas about what we can pay people, what cuts we might take, what we can do with tuition dollars. There's an awful lot on the table, but we are bracing ourselves for an additional cut, which will be tough.
The recent Board of Governors meeting, there were some VIPs there, very important politicians.
Right.
What message did they give you about what they're hoping for the universities? Okay,
well, one message that we're starting to hear more, and it's one that we've been working hard on ourselves, is to give us more flexibility. If there's a rule attached to every single dollar and I have to take a budget cut, I have no place to go, and because every dollar is tagged. So flexibility was one focal point. Tuition costs were another. And we're allowed to go up 15% if the Board of Governors agrees, as long as we're below the national average. But what's so interesting is that we're so low that a 15% increase is not that large, whereas the schools that we compete with, if they give a 6% increase or 7% increase, then they're actually increasing tuition a higher dollar amount. And it goes beyond that. Here's Georgia Tech, up 21%, but they already have a higher tuition than we do. Here's Arizona. They have a tuition that is nearly double ours, and they're going up 22% in a single year. So even though we have permission to go up 15%, we're actually lagging behind. And so a part of the discussion is it time to change that, especially when we're suffering budget cuts, so that we can maintain our quality?
Does it seem like the legislature and the politicians are supporting that idea this year?
I think it's a mixed message. I think that a number of them are saying we do have to go to 15%. Some of them are saying we should go beyond it. Many of the Board of Governors are starting to think we need to go beyond it, or at least give universities some idea of what to do in the long term. But it's a very sensitive issue when you start talking about higher tuition numbers.
You're also looking for a new provost. How is that search going on right now?
It's going quite well. We've identified 9 people for interviews that are off-campus interviews. This is a chance for the search committee to take a look for about an hour and a half with each candidate, and they will come up with a short list, and starting April 11th, we'll begin the interview process, and hopefully shortly thereafter, we will select a provost.
You've mentioned in the past the decreasing number of junior faculty in recent years. Why have those numbers been decreasing, real quick? Okay,
so there's several factors here. One is that one of the ways the dollars are tagged is in taking on the budget cuts of $85 million that we had to handle. The first people that lose their job are the assistant untenured faculty. So this is one portion of it. So 54 fall within that category, a really sad number. Some of them get promoted, and some of them go, you know, I think the pasture's greener someplace else. Often it isn't, but they may think that way. And so in some, we're down about 100 assistant professors. Now these are the young, energetic people that are going to set the future of the campus, so it's a tough story.
Thank you, Dr. Barron. That's our time for now. Please join us again next month for more Issues in Education. You can watch the premiere episode of Issues in Education the first Wednesday of every month at 7:30 p.m. That means you can see the next new episode on Wednesday, May 4th on WFSU-TV. Join us as we discuss the latest developments in higher education happening around the state and across the country. If you have questions that you would like us to address on this program, you can email us at issues@wfsu.org. Again, that's issues@wfsu.org. If you would like to see past episodes of Issues in Education, head to the President's website at president.fsu.edu. I'm Suzanne Smith with the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron, for Issues in Education. We'll see you next time.